Well, here we are looking at the Enlightenment. Now, what is the Enlightenment?
An intellectual movement that stressed reason, thought, and the power of man to solve problems.
I like that. All right. Now, the major causes of the Enlightenment were, remember back when we looked at the Renaissance, the Reformation, and the Scientific Revolution. Well, what do all of those movements have in common?
What?
Reason. Okay. The age of reason. Okay. Basically, people began to use reason to rethink old things, like in medicine. All right. They started to actually look at the body and see how it worked. All right. And if you can do it in medicine, you could do it in
Government?
Yay! All right. And this was the new way of thinking. Now, in the old way, what we were just looking at, the absolute monarch, like Louis the 14th or Peter the Great, they ruled because they justified their rule by divine right. That is, God chose them to be rulers. All right. But in the new way, you had to have the consent of the
People?
hey. All right. And now this movement is going to be led by a few guys. Thomas Hobbes starts it off. Then we get Locke, Jefferson, Montesquieu, and one of my very favorites, Rousseau. All right. Now, these people, it says influential thinkers that led the movement. All right. Now, these people would meet at places called the Salon. You definitely want to write this one down.
Not saloon?
Yeah, not saloon. Saloon that comes along much later in the West, and they, boom, boom, with the Cowboys, and then, that's no. The Salon. This was like a little old coffee house, all right, where rich people would get together, and they basically would drink coffee and debate ideas. All right.
Since the Middle Ages, European society had been broken into three distinct classes, dictated by birth. There was a great divide between the wealth of the nobility and the clergy, and the poverty of the peasants. Then, at the blossoming of the 18th century, reason and science began to challenge this age-old tradition. Swept up on a current of innovation and new literature, Paris now radiates as the philosophical center of the world. The city pulses with a great flourishing of knowledge, a shining beacon of possibility. It is the age of enlightenment.
The Enlightenment is a movement which says don't trust authority, don't trust anything that you've been told by anybody else at all. Think it out for yourself, test it for yourself.
In old regime Europe, you were told what to think. You were given information from above by your rulers, by your priests. And so the idea that you could map out all of human knowledge and then have access to it was revolutionary.
In elite salons across Paris, aristocrats gathered to discuss Enlightenment authors and the burgeoning age of reason. Voltaire, Rousseau, fresh voices who champion liberty, control of one's own destiny, and above all, equality. The passion for this new literature is highest among the upper class, but as Enlightenment ideas take root at all levels of society, the drive for equality will begin to threaten the aristocratic way of life.
Well, we'll get to that in the next unit when we look at revolution. But right now, with the Enlightenment movement, so basically this is a movement of the upper class. Now, Thomas Hobbes, he would not be one who would identify with the Enlightenment movement because he believed in the power of the king, that is, absolutism. He liked the idea of a strong king. So this and he wrote his ideas in something called the social contract. Now he's over in England and he's writing this idea about the social contract.
But Mr. Mays, if he's part of the Enlightenment philosophers, how is it possible that he would believe in absolute powers from monarchy?
Like I said, he started it off, But that's a dumb question. We're going to have to get back to you on that. Now, people should, this is the major idea that you need to write down that he comes up with. People should give up their rights to a ruler in exchange for law and order. That is, the king is going to keep law and order. So he lays out these ideas in the social contract. Well, other people read his ideas, and this was the wonderful thing about writing. One such thinker later on reads his ideas, and his name is John Locke. Well, he agreed with the basics of what Hobbes said. That is, people should give up their rights in exchange for a law and order. But I haven't gotten to the but yet. I'm sorry. So his ideas would mean that we can make improvements. If we had a strong, orderly society, we can make improvements in society, and everybody benefits. But if that king should threaten our natural rights, the people have the power to
overthrow the government?
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. So here's a little diagram of how it worked. Okay. So basically the idea is people have the power initially, but we give it to the king in order for him to protect our rights and that society as a whole can prosper. If he misuses his power, then the people will take it back. All right. That is the basic idea of John Locke.
So the king was like our president, except the king could kill us at his will?
Yes, something like that. Alrighty, smart student. Now, here's when I said natural rights, this is what I meant by natural rights, because John Locke had a very specific definition for natural rights: life, liberty, and the ownership of property. Smart student, what would this be in the United States? Because we changed this.
I don't know.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. At any rate, this is the exact opposite of Louis XIV's I am the state philosophy, which, didn't go over well a little bit later on by the time we get to Louis XVI, because he gets his head chopped off. All right. But in Locke's thinking, the best form of government would be a constitutional monarchy.
What does that mean?
Well, that's what I want you to tell me, smart student. Okay, now later on we get another thinker, and this is over in France now. Voltaire. All right, this was like his pen name because he got arrested so many times for saying stuff that the king didn't like. So of course, one of the things that he championed was freedom of speech.
Yeah, I like that.
All right. Now, he believed in the virtue of the common man, and he distrusted everything about aristocracy, the church, the monarchy. All right. Power. He didn't trust it. Believed in the virtue of the regular, average guy. Now, the key thing about his ideas of freedom of thought and speech and religion, all right, is later on, those ideas will appear right in our own Bill of Rights. And in fact, the very first article are his ideas.
Ooh.
And that brings me to my favorite thinker, Rousseau, who said that the noble savage, that is, man in his regular state, he's good, he's born free, and then he tries to mix into society and he gets corrupted.
Oh, yeah? How?
Because when you try to mix in with everybody else, then greed, jealousy, all of the stuffs that make us want more, want this, want that, that comes into play, and it makes us the enslaved man that he wrote about. So the idea that basically too much power corrupts absolutely comes from Rousseau.
I think that's good.
All right. So the best form of government in his idea is a direct democracy. This is whereby we all share the power for the common good of man.
But that's almost impossible.
Yeah, but it sounds good on paper, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
So in his idea, we get rid of the king altogether. We don't need a king. Not only do we not need a king, we don't need a government. We just need the people. Okay, so with the social contract, as in from Locke's point forward, rulers should serve the needs of the people. Okay, and this gives us to a stepping stone from here over to here, what we call the enlightened despot, which is basically a king who thinks about the needs of the people. And he recognizes that his power comes from the people. That is, the consent of the governed, rather than simply saying that God chose him. Alrighty. And that really just about wraps up our piece on the Enlightenment movement. The major thing I want you to understand is it's going to lead to a decline in traditional authorities. That is, the church is going to lose power, nobility lose power, and definitely the whole idea of absolute monarchs begins to decline. All right, so I have a few questions that I want you to answer here.
Nah.
And bring these 4 questions in with you tomorrow. And get ready for your test on, I'm saying Friday, but with this snow day stuff messing us up. Yeah.